sure that the only higher education that was available to the people who lived here was that was appropriate to keep them in their place. This is the hope of the future of our state, the people in this room. And we desperately need a leader who can say, we are 53% of the University of Hawaii budget, and we took 73% of the cut. That is not fair. It is not right. I taught in the community colleges for 10 years. I love the community college system. But this is not right, and it is not fair, and it must be challenged. Thank you.
Kathy, I'm sorry, I just forgot to also ask. I know that our electricity bills are second only to the military. So how much are we spending in electricity? How much are we reducing our spending to electricity since last 2 years we became aware of it? And how much is projected that we can reduce in electrical bills so that we can put more of that money towards taking out the deficit? Or have you already figured that in? Was that in your presentation? Because I didn't see a separate line for that.
It was in my original planning numbers. I took it out in what we're dealing with right now because although we've made significant strides this past year, we have reduced electricity consumption by 7% this past year, which would equate to $1.3 million worth of cost. The challenge we're facing is the rates are now going up faster than we can save utilities. So that's the basic information that I know, Lily Kala. I think that whole topic, along with energy savings and R&M issues, would be a good subject for a whole additional town hall meeting, so you can get the flavor of what we're dealing with in terms of all of our R&M as well as utility challenges. We're anticipating with the Manoa Green Days pilot, which, as you probably know, we rolled out to many buildings July 109. We turn off the air handling systems to the non-research buildings that can handle it on the weekends and 3-day holidays now. We're anticipating if we can do that again through the Christmas break, we will save an additional $1.5 million to the 1.5 that I mentioned earlier. It's the majority of our savings are coming in terms of mechanical upgrades to our systems because our buildings were built in the 60s. They're very old and inefficient, and we're using what money we can to redo the mechanical systems to get massive changes.
So that's already been in your slide. That was already
it was
in.
We
still have 11 million as $2,000.
I have a question. My name is Brian Bilski. I'm a grad student and graduate assistant. I've been combing the internet for several weeks now to see who else is considering retrenchment around the country, especially our peer and benchmark institutions. And I see none of our peer benchmark institutions seem to have it on the table, and only 2 public universities across the country. Do you know if retrenchment is on the table at any of our benchmark or peer institutions?
In terms of public discussions, Ryan's absolutely right. There's only about probably 5 to 7 universities out there. Certainly there's conversations at higher administration and a number of universities if the budget crisis continues.
Can I just follow up on Mita's question very quickly, or her statement actually? No, it wasn't a question. I understand, maybe you can correct me on this, that recently Linda Johnsrud gave a presentation before the Board of Regents about the strategic plan, and with this PowerPoint demonstration in which she said, among other things, that the current strategic plan and mission is too broad and vague. And what we need to do is focus the University of Hawaii on state workforce economic needs. What that sounds like is taking the University of California at Berkeley and converting its mission into that of City College of San Francisco. Now, I went to City College of San Francisco, I went to San Francisco State, and I also went to Yale, and I know that there are 3 different missions of those 3 different systems. We really, really, I hope, aren't entertaining turning the University of Hawaii at Manoa into Hawaii Community College, which is what this sounds like, and it would be a disaster, of course. workforce for the long-term economic benefit situation of the state.
Both Kathy and I were at that presentation. It was a presentation, and it's up on the web, I think.
Yes, it is.
It is, okay, all right. And we are expected at the October meeting to, I think the Chancellor is expected at the October meeting to do a presentation on how Manoa is supporting system goals. So I think this is a very timely question. There are 10 goals. One of them has to do with specific workforce shortages, and I think teachers, social workers, and nurses are mentioned, which are obviously programs that are Manoa. So clearly for the community college, that may mean more radiological technicians and automotive technicians, but the description of workforce in that goal does include programs that I think are standard academic professional programs at the University of Hawai'i Manoa. Can that kind of discourse be code for what you were just saying? It absolutely can be. And we need to make a case that the University of Hawaii needs to produce broadly educated people because the state of Hawaii needs broadly educated people. They need bachelor's degrees, they need master's degrees, they need lawyers, they need doctors. That's an argument so the argument about workforce needs can be vocationalized, but it also can be capable of fully defending every single thing we do at the University of Hawaii Manoa. And certainly our intent next month is to make that broader definition, is that if you need workforce degrees, we need, the biggest thing the workforce needs is smart, well-educated people.
Vice Chancellor Cutchaw, a few months ago you commissioned a study to look at the economic impact of Manoa on the state. And I'm wondering what the status of that is, because I know it would address some of the issues that are talked about at the state and national level in terms of economic recovery. And it would also deal with the research mission. Can you tell us what the status of that is and how it's going to be disseminated to the public?
Yes, UHERO prepared the report for us, the Manoa Economic Impact Report. It was finalized, I believe, in January, maybe late December. It was given out to all the deans and directors, and it's already published on my website. The basic point of this economic impact study shows that for every dollar that the state invests in Manoa, we in turn invest $5.34 back into the local economy. It's on my website for anyone to access.
And just to pick up a little bit on David's point a few minutes ago, one of the goals is external funding, and clearly that is something where Manoa does virtually all of the heavy lifting, and that's certainly something that will be part of our presentation.
Can you make an argument that the reverse is true, that for every dollar you take away, you lose $5 to the economy?
I'd like to make that. We put it in a positive way.
American higher education over the past 2 decades has been faced with a massive disinvestment from the public sphere, and that has consequences that we're living if you are between the ages of 55 and 64, and I know some people in this room fall in this category, including myself, you represent the most educated cohort of the world. Americans graduate from higher education in higher numbers. That is no longer true for any other group because state after state has invested less in higher education. We are showing the consequence of that, which is to say we are now 12th or 13th, I think, of the latest numbers among OECD countries at the rate at which we're educating our young people. This is a huge social crisis. And Hawaii is below national norms. It is not as low as the state I just came from, which is well below national norms, but we are below national norms, and the nation is below the emerging norms of countries like Canada, Japan, and Korea. There's a large public conversation we need to have. The problem is that conversation has a longer time frame. We didn't get into this overnight. The history of disinvestment is our adult lifetimes, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. But absolutely, there's an argument that public disinvestment in higher education will lead to public consequences, absolutely.
Michael?
Regarding your 11 million shortfall